Hello, PICKASIDE Nation. This is James Finley, your host to the PICKASIDE podcast, coming to you from the lab. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we had an opportunity to interview Mrs. Angela Chandler Norward. And I must tell you, this was a very special interview that I had the opportunity to be a part of. Angela was so very compelling with the information regarding COVID-19 and her journey through it, as well as surviving and still going through the process of healing. I hope that you guys enjoy this strong and impactful and powerful video as much as I did. Please enjoy. Also, remember to hit that share button as well as that subscribe button. Sit back and enjoy. Angela Chandler Norward. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? This is James Finley with the PICKASIDE podcast, coming to you from the lab for a very special broadcast that we're going to be doing tonight with the one and only Angela Chandler Norward of Birmingham, Alabama. Today's show is special because we have a situation that's going on in our country with COVID-19. And I felt that it was an opportunity for Angela to be able to kind of educate us and kind of let us know what her journey has been with COVID-19. There's a lot of people, especially in the African American community, that feels for some whatever reason that this is somewhat of a hoax and that this is not real. So I wanted to reach out to someone that not only knows what this journey is all about, but has a lot of experience in helping others with this as well. So it is my privilege this evening to be able to bring Angela to the Pick a Side podcast. Angela, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing surprisingly well this evening.
Well, from what you've been through and maybe continue to go through, no one would be able to know at all unless you were to tell people. But you look fabulous, and I certainly appreciate you coming on to educate both our communities, both South, out here on the West Coast, North, as well as on the East Coast. So why don't you kind of introduce yourself to the Pick a Side Nation and let everybody know kind of what you do and where you've been and where you're going to.
Okay. My name is Angela Chandler Norward, and I am an RN by trade. I've been in the medical field a little bit over 33 years. The last 30 and a half years has been working with the American Heroes at the Veterans Hospital here in Birmingham. I pretty much knew when I was a little girl that I wanted to take care of people. I like helping people. So then I decided initially I was saying, okay, well, I'll be a school teacher. Then I changed my mind a little bit later because my mom was a nursing assistant, and as a little girl, seeing her dressed up in her white, thinking, she's going, and she was a registered nurse. And I learned as I got older that she was a nurse's assistant. But then I decided that I wanted to be a registered nurse. And so basically that's what I've done. Most of my experience has been in the critical care arena. I started out in neurointensive care at a trauma hospital. And in 2006, October 2006, I switched over to blind rehabilitation at the Veterans Hospital. So it's basically helping them regain some of their independence with the visual impairment. And I've been there since then, and I'm looking forward to retiring soon.
And we hope that that is going to come soon. I know we all get to a certain age where we're ready to step aside and live our second half of life. Going back to what you just said, that you've been working over at the VA. My dad was a veteran, and during the last couple of years of his life, I spent a lot of time going up back and forth to the hospital. Back then, it was a lot different than what they say things are now. There was a lot of caring nurses, doctors at that particular time when my dad was there. And as I've heard, as time has gone on, it seems like things may not be as well as they used to be. Not saying that's how it is at your facility, but so how is that experience working with veterans that have served our country?
Well, the veterans, I say, when I was in nursing school, I did my clinicals there.
Hmm.
And I never wanted to work at the VA because, they had this dreary green paint that was on the walls. And so it was depressing to me.
Yeah.
But somehow I found my way to the VA, and I kind of stayed there because I enjoyed that atmosphere of helping the American heroes. Now, years ago in the Birmingham system, and even with quite a few of the VAs around the country, most of the veterans that I've come in contact with have said that they didn't like the service they received back in the day. My dad also served 4 years in the Air Force, and my uncle, he retired from the Army, and my brother did
Mhm.
20 years in the Navy.
Oh, wow.
But most of the veterans now at the Birmingham VA Medical Center, because they have the Veterans Choice, so they opt to come to the Birmingham VA. And I tell them during my years in the emergency room, I used to tell them all, come to the VA because you don't have to worry about your health care. It's a whole lot better than what it was, and you get everything that's like a one-stop shop,
Yeah, yeah.
and they really get good care there. Um, so I would recommend that they do, if they haven't been, to seek out, go ahead and get enrolled and go to the VA because there is no other place like it. And to their credit, no other hospital, in my opinion, that I've seen treat them the way that the VA treat the veterans.
We need to pack up the VA hospital out here in Westwood, California, and we need to send them out to Alabama because what you're saying right now is totally different than what I be hearing out here. So hats off to the facility where you guys are at. I certainly appreciate that. Appreciate that. So let's dive into it. So of course you're here because not only you served as an RN and you've been so, and we certainly appreciate your years of service in that category. But before, what was a normal day for you before contracting COVID-19?
A normal day.
Mm-hmm.
Who so long ago? Um, a normal work day or activities as far as just regular day, because like on a work day I worked 8-hour shifts, so I would get up and get ready and look forward to going to the VA to do my job because I was in blind rehabilitation, and I found that those gentlemen are a little bit more appreciative of the things that you do for them because we're giving them a sense of independence back. And
Right.
not enough VAs, not enough of the veterans utilize the VAs when they become visually impaired. A lot of them don't even know that it's available to them. But I will go in and I do my 8 hours, checking on the patients, doing everything that I need to do. And after my shift is over, most of the time I would stay beyond my shift, helping out. And even on weekends, I would go and pick them up to take them because it's like being in a college atmosphere because you come in and you stay there from 6 to 8, sometimes 12 weeks. And they don't have their family there if they're coming from other regions of the United States. So I would
Mhm.
come and I get them on the weekends and take them to church with me.
Oh, great.
So they became like an extended family. After I get off work and I come home and do what I need to do for my family, and I have my little Pepper, my little dog, a Shih Tzu and Poodle
Hmm.
mix called a Shih-Poo.
Hmm.
Um, and he's right up under my feet. So I'm able to do just about anything that I wanted to do during that time. There were
Right.
no limitations unless it was just my physical inabilities
Hmm.
from not being as active
Right.
as I probably should have been.
Right. So, so what were the signs and the symptoms that you experienced prior to learning that you were infected with COVID-19?
Okay, let me I'm expound on that just a little bit more because I didn't know initially. You know, when they started closing places, you know, we had one entrance for the employees at the VA hospital, and we had another entrance for the veterans. And when we come through the doors, we weren't allowed to touch the door. We had a card key that we waved, and then the door would open, and we come in, and we would put hand sanitizer on our hands. And that was the gist of what we did.
Right.
The veterans, they screened them and they gave them hand sanitizer as well. And they go on about their position. So working in IV therapy, because of the shutdown, I was moved to another area. So I was working in IV therapy, which phlebotomy, where the patients come to the lab and get their blood work and stuff drawn. This particular day, that Friday morning that I went to work, this was May 22nd. I didn't think anything about it because I have asthma. I also have hypertension, and I'm a little on the overweight side. But and all of those are considered to be comorbidities for the COVID-19. So when I got ready to go to work, when I got to the parking deck, got out of my car, and I was thinking, you don't have to wear the mask. And I was thinking, oh man, this mask and asthma just not working today, because I was short of breath, but didn't think anything about it because I have asthma.
Yeah.
I get to work, and by the time I get into the unit where I work, I leaned back up against the door, and I was thinking, man, I took the mask off, and I was like, man, this asthma and this mask is just not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prior to that, you know, some days before, I had been extremely tired, not from doing any extra activities, but it didn't dawn on me. Then employee health called, I guess about 2:30, and I'll never forget that call. 2:30 that afternoon, and started talking to the staff that's in IV therapy, because they had a employee. They didn't say employee per se. The person that worked had not been there since the Tuesday, and this was Friday. So we left trying to figure out, okay, well, who could it have been? But, you know, for HIPAA reasons, they couldn't
Right.
let that
Right.
information out.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talked to an employee health nurse, I was thinking, oh, no, 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 don't say it, don't say it. She said, well, Angela, have you had any symptoms? And I was thinking, I'm like, no, I haven't had any symptoms. So she started naming off some symptoms, and she had shortness of breath and being tired. And I was like, well, yeah. I said, but I didn't think anything about that. I said, I was extremely short of breath this morning, because I was like, it was just harder for me to breathe this morning than any other morning. And when she mentioned tiredness, and I said, I've been tired for no reason. So she said, well, we're going to have to send you home, because you're experiencing some symptoms, because they was asking me about a temperature. I didn't have a reason to check my temperature, because I didn't feel like, you know, I was sick. I was just thinking it was just asthma. So they told me I had to go home. So the first thing I did, I didn't argue with them. I was like, okay, my shift ends at 4 o'clock anyway. I just wanted to touch bases with the people who had come to see me that day, or the people other than the ones that work in the area, because you have to do contact tracing. And I didn't leave it to them to do the contact tracing, because these are my friends, and I wanted to make sure that they knew. One gentleman had come down to get something from me, and I called him and I said, look, I said, they sent me home because I have some symptoms, and somebody has tested positive for COVID-19. And I just want you to be on the lookout, and you may need, I said, I did give your name to employee health, so they'll probably be calling you. So I did my own little version of contact tracing.
Yeah.
And it was devastating, because, you know, you hear about the people with COVID-19, and then those that are going to the hospitals and not necessarily make it out. And I was like, okay. I kept telling myself, great is he that is in me than he that is in the world.
That's right.
If he brought me to it, he would take me through it. And no weapons, though they may be formed, they shall not prosper. So I kept telling myself that every day. And the fact that I trust God. They set me up for the test which UAB is a big hospital here in Birmingham, and they had a testing site which they had set up. You drive through and get the testing. They couldn't get me in until Thursday, which was the 28th of the next week. And my husband drove me there, and the initial tests are awful.
Yeah, I've heard.
Because when I went in, I've never had anything to feel like that before. And it was almost like they had rupture. I said, oh, I feel it in my eye.
So hold on. So let me stop you right for a quick second. I've the last couple of times, well, no, when I went into the hospital once before, I went in the hospital, I had a hernia, and they had to put this tube up my nose. I think it had to put it up my nose where it had to go down
That's a
into, yeah,
nasogastric tube.
there it
Yes.
is. Okay. So can you kind of compare the two? Because I know that when they did that, because I told them, I said, can you guys just put me to sleep? And they said, we can't. That was like one of the worst procedures that I had ever went through in my life. So is it kind of on the lines of that?
Well, it's a little bit different because the NG tube, that's a short nasogastric tube. The NG tube, when they put it down the back, either they're going through your mouth. Most chances, we try to do the nares. So when they go in, the problem for normal people is that you have a gag reflex, and the first thing you're thinking is that they're going to go in my lungs, and because like if you go into the water, the automatic you're going to clamp up, you close off everything so it won't go in, and that's what happens. So we tell people, we give them some ice chips or something to swallow. If they swallow at the time that we're putting it in there and just relax, then it can kind of go into, because when they swallow, they close off the airway and it goes down into the stomach. So that's a little bit different. But the thing is that with you guys, when you're having it done, it's like, okay, this is not normal. It doesn't go there. Okay, fine. And everybody just clamps up. So it's kind of hard to get those in, but you have some people who are just pros at it. But it's like when they went into it, they go into your nair here, and it goes, I felt it here. Oh. Because they had to go back so far in that little pocket that's there. And I can send you a picture of what it looks like, but going back that far, and then it has a little brush on it. It was kind of scraping a little bit to get some of the cells from back there. And my eye immediately started burning. And I told my husband, I said, I think she ruptured my eye. Yeah. I was being a little bit over dramatic, but afterwards, I started bleeding. My nose started bleeding. I said, I think she tore up something. She tore something, but she was a short person, and I was in a Tahoe, so I was kind of high up. So she may have lost her balance a little bit. I don't know.
So explain to the audience the circumstances surrounding being tested and the time frame of getting the positive COVID-19 test result.
Okay, I was sent home on the 22nd. So more symptoms started. And I don't know which one I lost first. No, I lost my taste buds first.
Okay.
I lost my taste buds, and not thinking at the time, so there is a neurological connection there. Okay. Even though this is considered respiratory, it affects a whole lot of systems in your body. So I lost my sense of taste because I love chocolate. And I said, well, I'm going to eat this piece of chocolate because I didn't really feel like eating anything else. It was a Dove chocolate, and they're so smooth and good. Not trying to give a shout out to Dove, but
right.
But when I did that, and I was like, I'm not going to waste. I can't taste it, so I'm not going to waste any more food, and I can't even taste it. That's part of eating, to taste the stuff. So a couple of hours later, I couldn't smell nothing. And I was going around sniffing stuff just to see, because I was in disbelief. I'm like, I can't believe, really, I can't smell anything. I'd sniffed some Clorox, I had some ammonia, and I was like, okay, I can't smell
Oh, wow.
anything.
Mm,
And then I became nauseated. I didn't have an appetite. Um, Shout out to my husband and my son, who was great in taking care of me during that time. I had him doing soups for me, but
mhm.
basically I ate fruits, um, like fresh pineapples and
Yeah.
watermelon and grapes and strawberries and stuff like that. And it was easy to digest, because then I started having problems with my stomach. It was like little men in there just beating it up.
Right, right.
So, but sitting there waiting to take the test. So you're in limbo. You have all of this stuff coming, but you can't get tested until a week later. And then you don't get the results until the next day.
Mm.
And but I kind of knew. I had a feeling, everybody, even though I posted it on Facebook, and I started doing the Facebook lives because I wanted people to put a face to this virus, because so many people were in disbelief or thinking that it was a hoax, like somebody from DC said. And so they were thinking, oh, well, this is not real.
Yeah.
So everybody started praying, and they said, well, we praying that this is not what it is. It's not going to happen. And then I told them that I believe that it is actually what I have, but I'm trusting God. He has a greater purpose for this. So I'm just gonna ride along. And everybody said, "Well, we're gonna say that it's negative, it's negative, it's negative." But I knew deep down in, especially with all the symptoms that I had, that it was going to be
Right.
positive.
So how do you feel you contracted COVID-19?
From work,
So definitely from work. Okay.
definitely from work, because at that time they had the lockdown, where we were required to wear a mask in the city. They started having the curfews where you had to be in, and then the stores and stuff were closed. So
Mhm.
definitely from work, and I was a little upset in hearing um, the White House saying that it was plenty of PPEs, and it wasn't. We didn't have that at our VA hospital, and I mean, we had some, but it was nowhere near the amount that we would need, considering what was happening. So not only were we um, caught up in the shortage, everybody else was, but most of my friends thinking, okay, you work for the government and you should have plenty, but that was not the case. So I got to the
So
point.
what month so basically, uh I know that we started hearing this about this coronavirus around maybe January, and then it started picking up momentum in the states around February. Towards the end of February, it was like, yeah, this stuff might touch ground into the states. And then when we
Yeah.
found out that it actually did touch down, and then it started going from city to state to state. So at that particular time, when did you guys started noticing that your PPEs were slowly, you guys are slowly starting to run out of it?
Well, I don't know um, the exact time frame for our unit, which is an elective um, admission for the veterans to come in for the blind rehab program. So
Mhm.
um, we heard from Washington that we needed to let those guys go home, because
Mhm.
they are at higher risk
High
because they're
risk.
older,
Yeah.
and they have most of them had a lot of comorbidities. The average age of our patient is about 70, I think.
Mhm.
At that time, we had a lot of them that was around that age, and maybe two or three that was like 80s. But
Okay.
we sent out our last patient on the 27th of March
Oh, wow.
from blind rehab, and so it totally
Mm,
shut down.
mm,
So
wow.
and then they were using the staff, the nursing staff, I helped them train some of the other nurses from the clinics to go to the other floors. And then eventually they sent me out to the other floors to work as well.
Got it.
So,
So did any of your coworkers or any frontline workers that you were directly exposed when you had COVID-19, did they contract the virus as well?
yeah, three ladies that work with me in blind rehab, we were all working in IV therapy.
Hmm.
And all three of us
Mm,
ended up being sick with the COVID-19
right.
because at the time, and I think because it was so new
Hmm.
and they really didn't know how to, I mean, that's my thought. They really didn't know how to go about doing it. And, and trying to keep the patient's identity or prevent from violating the HIPAA laws, not
Hmm.
necessarily telling who that person was. They can just only tell us that it's a potential that we have been exposed.
Right.
Quite a few people went out during that time from that area. But since they've had, oh God, so many people
Yeah.
that have
Yeah.
been exposed. And especially, when you have different municipalities or government agencies telling people, okay, over here, you have to have on your mask. And then you go to the city next door and they're allowing them to do whatever they want to do. So there has never been any point that we had a containment. Um,
Yeah. It's a shame, Angela, that a pandemic has turned political, because I feel like, you know, if we had um, good leadership at the top, that we could be like some of these other European countries right now who are almost in the process of returning back to normal life. But here we are, which is supposed to be the greatest country on the face of the map in the world, and here
yeah,
we're putting more people in the ground
still
than
dealing with
any
it.
other country in the world, and it's almost embarrassing the way that we present ourselves, and for us to have to be going through this. I saw what the state of New York was going through in the early months of March and April and May, and 700, 800 deaths a day, to where the morgues could not even handle
And they
uh,
had the cooler
those deceased
trucks.
patients. They had to bring out the refrigerated trucks
Yeah.
out into the parking lots, and then funeral homes. They just did not have enough, and so I hated to say it at the time, and even now it's during COVID-19, it wasn't a good time to die, and so going forward with you, Angela. So how has COVID-19, how's it affected your life and your health, moving forward? Take your time.
Yeah. For me, it is not one and done like a lot of people thought. You
Hmm.
go through your 10-day or your 14-day quarantine. When you get to the point where you test negative, then you're okay. But that is not the case. I am grateful, and I've always said on my Facebook Lives is that I'm grateful to God that my husband and my son, who are here with me, never had a symptom.
Oh,
Now, according
man.
to
Mm,
the health department, when I tested positive, they said, well, what they would do was just assume that they were positive and they
mhm,
had to go on a 14-day quarantine.
mhm,
Now, it was great for me in the sense that I am not in this house alone. I had some companionship,
right.
but I can only imagine how hard it would be for somebody who has nobody at home because there
Mm,
were nights I was, well, I can't say was, still nights that I suffer with insomnia now because of this. Never had
oh,
this
wow.
problem before,
Yeah.
and I think it's more so when it was at the critical point where I literally thought that I wasn't going to wake up. It was just that bad. It was hard to take deep breaths. It hurt to take a deep breath. And initially, when my body ache started, it started in my lower back. And then I didn't think about it, but like when I would just shift on the sofa, my hair follicles, they were hurting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my arms, my back, my legs, they were hurting. I was like, oh man, I never knew that could hurt. And then I
Yeah.
said, okay, nerve endings are there. So yeah, it can hurt. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
put my medical hat on a lot of times. And basically I refused to go to the hospital. I was afraid. I really was
Mm-hmm.
afraid. Even though, as a Christian, I believe that nothing is too hard for God,
Mm-hmm.
but they were practicing. This is new.
Mm-hmm.
And all of my medical training taught me this is a virus. You treat
Mm-hmm.
it as such.
Right,
There is
right.
no cure for viruses. You treat your symptoms. And so I had done a whole lot of research during this time of being here, done a lot of research. So I knew that people were throwing clots. I have a very close girlfriend who worked at a nursing home. She picked it up at the nursing home and she took it home to her husband,
Mm.
who is also a blind person,
Yeah.
visually impaired. Um, he went into the hospital. I want to say it was March 26th. He spent months in there. He has suffered strokes. He was on a ventilator, kidneys shut down. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that was happening to him. So he threw clots. So my thinking is, okay, if I take something that's going to treat my cold symptoms, I need to make sure some aspirin is in there so that I won't develop clots. I have to get up and I walk around, no matter how hard it was, walking around to actually get some movement or some exercise in my
Yeah.
legs.
Yeah.
And so, and he is not at home today. I mean, he ended up going to rehabilitation, but he hasn't returned to his normal self.
Right.
So he's in a nursing home now. And she is just so distraught, thinking that it's her fault that this happened. But, this is what's in the world. And I think that it could have been handled better, but we're here. And so we have to go forward. So I just
Yeah.
treated myself. I had Alka-Seltzer Cold Plus because it had the aspirin in it. I was taking it every 4 to 5 hours. Now,
Right.
if my body started hurting, okay, I knew it was wearing off. Some days I had a temperature, but the Alka-Seltzer Cold Plus with the aspirin in it actually kept that at bay along with some of the body aches.
Right.
I had my airborne or emergency mega dose of vitamin C. So that's 1,000
Yeah.
international units. I had the vitamin D because that also helps with the immune system. And that
Mm-hmm.
was 5,000 international units that I was taking a day. And the sunshine was my friend.
Mm.
Not only did it help me to produce extra vitamin D, but getting out there, and I've never been a fan of sitting in the sun. I want to find a
Mm.
shade tree. But
Yeah,
when this
yeah, yeah.
happened, I would go out on the patio and just sit in the sun. And that heat from the sun felt so good on my body. I had the elderberry. I was drinking the elderberry juice. I
Mm-hmm.
had a young lady here in Birmingham that was she she's herbalist. She's an herbalist and she was blending teas. And she heard about me and she just stopped what she was doing, even though she was dealing with her father, her grandfather, and he was on hospice and he was almost on his way out of here. She came by, she brewed that tea that morning, came by, put it on the porch. She told me on the phone how to take it. She didn't know me. So God had a lot of people in place, that was willing to help me, and
Right.
I'm grateful for that. So I had
Right.
my herbal teas that I was drinking. Um, I think the biggest part of it is just the fear of actually dying. Even though I know that when I do leave here, I'm going on to
Mm-hmm.
be with Jesus. I'm going to be up there in the heavens. But,
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking about all the things that you have to do, people that you're leaving behind. And so um, it's a form of post traumatic stress disorder that
Mm-hmm.
sets in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and me having asthma, not being able to get into my pulmonologist. And then I found out later that the reason I couldn't get in there was because he had contracted the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So he understood the symptoms because when I did get in there to see him, he said that he had been tired, just unnecessarily just tired, and he was trying to make it. So this is like nothing we've ever seen before. And in my
Yeah.
33 years of nursing, just nothing.
Yeah.
And I, with the stuff that's happening now in my body, like, okay, take for instance, Monday I went to have a CAT scan of my lungs because the chest X-ray didn't show anything. I have problems still with my breathing, so the asthma doesn't necessarily make it better. It's actually worse.
Right.
So I have puffers, well, Symbicort, and I have albuterol. During the critical stages, I was doing an albuterol nebulizer, where I was giving myself breathing treatments every 6 hours to help um, open up my airway so I can get more air in. And then you have this brain fog. So if I forget something, I'm trying to tell you something and switch over, it's the brain fog.
Mm-hmm.
And that for a person such as myself who always feel like I have to be in control, not being able to remember something, it bothers me.
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah.
bothers me.
Yeah.
Um, so this is uncharted territory. So
Well.
I still have see how I switch over from the CAT scan to something else. On Monday, when I had the
Mm-hmm.
CAT scan, whenever I go out for appointments, and I don't go anywhere, but whenever I go out for appointments, and my husband usually takes me, when I come back home, I am dog tired. And I haven't done
Right.
anything but
Right.
just riding in the car, going to the appointment, and coming back. And it
Mm-hmm.
takes 2 to 3 days to get my energy level back up. Even though I'm still taking my vitamins, all of that stuff, it's just the wearing on the bodies. And I
Yeah.
always tell people this is not something that I would wish on my enemies if I had some. I just
Right.
would not, because some days I just don't know. And then some days I'm depressed. I have anxiety and depression along with this. I
Yeah.
had some before, but this has made it worse. So it's
Right.
sort of like I want to change the environment. I want to go out, and I have energy. Just like I just want to go to a park and just sit out there just to be like normal people. But then when I
Mm-hmm.
get out there, like, no, I think I'm just gonna go back home.
Yeah.
So
Well, I want to share. I want to share something with you. With you being a child of God, and I told myself when I started doing these podcasts, I said, I was going to try my best to try to keep religion off of my podcast because I didn't want the masses to be saying, because everyone has a different belief in this and that.
yeah,
But you know what? It's my show, so forget all that. So let me just say something to you. When you said earlier that, you had people praying that that you was going to test negative. Sometimes we ask the questions, why me? And I was told a long time ago by one of the old ladies in my church, sometimes you have to say, why not me?
exactly.
And, sometimes God has to use individuals for a certain type of platform. And Angela, thank God that you are still here. But more so than that, God is going to be able to use you to be a living testimony to others who are going through the same thing that you're going through. I'm reminded back in 2008, that same hernia procedure that I just told you about earlier,
Hmm.
it turned into me having a double blood clot. I had a blood
Mm.
clot that was in my lung, and I had a blood clot that was racing to my heart. And I am only here by the grace of God, because I had 14 doctors that came into the room and told me I had 7 hours to live.
Mm.
And so I think it's 2020 right now. And
Yeah.
so, I never charge God foolishly that I'm still here.
Oh
And I've
my.
always been trying to figure out, Lord, why is it that you spared my life? And then I've read about so many other people that would pass away from a blood clot, a simple
Mhm.
blood clot. They caught in their leg, it went up to their lungs, they clocked out of here. But I had two of them, and I had them in two of the most deadly areas that a
Yes.
human being could possibly have a blood clot. So I say this, I'm a testimony for people when their backs up or against the wall, and when the doctors go into that room and tell people and look them in the eye and say, hey, we don't know if you're going to make it through the night. I'm a living witness, and you are a living witness right now that God can do anything but fail.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
so, what you're going to have to do is keep telling your story, because unfortunately, we have a lot of young people. I don't know if you've seen on the news, we had a big
I have.
situation the other day out here where there's a bunch of young blacks that was at this house party. It turned into a shooting. A young lady, had died. But the seriousness of COVID-19 is not being taken serious in our communities. I believe a lot of folks have gotten cabin fever.
Yes.
For me, I've been getting out ever since. So, but what I used to do, I would get in my car and I would just drive up and down the coast. We have beautiful beaches out here.
Yes.
I would
They
be in my
are.
car, and that would be therapeutic for me. Everybody is not afforded the same opportunities that I had. But one of the things with this COVID-19, I counted before I did this show with you, and I have 6 people that I've known personally that have passed away from COVID-19. Uh, on Facebook, I'm constantly reading week by week where somebody who knew someone has passed
Yes.
away from COVID-19. So in closing, I want you to take a moment right now to tell those our young black youth, the ones that feel that they're invincible and that can never catch this, even to the ones that feel like wearing a mask is a hoax. So, what do you have to say to these individuals that are still walking around here feeling like, it's okay and it's not going to affect me?
It's not okay. Um, I mostly tell everybody whenever I finish the live for them to stay safe. Wear your mask, practice social distancing, wash your hands, carry hand sanitizer with you. This coronavirus, COVID-19, is like the devil. It's a roaring lion going to and fro, seeking
Seeking
whom.
we may devour.
Yes. And
Yeah,
it does not matter the age, the race. Now there is some discrepancies when you get to the economical statuses, and mostly it's affecting brown and black people.
right,
And every
right.
time I turn on the TV, which I don't watch it much now, I do a lot of reading and stuff now. But whenever I turn it on and I see a gathering, when I see our people together at a party, I cringe. Just like, Jesus, help them to understand, and not just the people in the world, even in my own family, when I try to tell them the importance. And I'm like, I don't want you to have to go through what I've gone through. You may not make it out.
Right, right,
And
right.
so a lot of people don't understand. And my first thing is that when I see people, and I
Hmm.
say, I know I may sound like a mother hen to you,
Hmm.
where's your mask?
Right.
Why don't you have on a mask? I don't care. Those people don't live in your house. And even though they've loosened the restrictions some, I tell people my house is still under quarantine, is closed. If you don't live in it, you can't come to it. Now, family gatherings can happen on the outside, but you need to have the space in between and wear your mask because you're taking it home to the baby who has just been birthed into the world, maybe
Mm,
2 or 3 weeks old, or
right.
to grandma or granddad who is 80 to 90 years old. Maybe they're young parents and grandparents and they're in their 50s. Those
Mm-hmm.
people may have something going on inside of their bodies that they can't take this. So
Right,
it's
right.
not about just you and what you feel. If you have compassion for your fellow man, if you
That's
love
right.
your family, then you need to wear a mask. I
Right.
think that this is going to become our new norm. So if you need to bling them out, bling them out, but you
Yeah.
need to wear your mask. Prior
Right.
to me getting sick, I had started making masks for people. I
Oh
pulled out
wow.
my sewing machine and pulled my old trade that I learned as a little girl
Mm-hmm.
in school, and I started making masks for people
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it was just that important to me. And so, if I could say anything to the young people, is that wear your mask, practice social distancing. It's not worth your life getting out there to hang with your buddy. Your buddy may make it, but you may not.
You know, Angela, I so appreciate you coming on today. You have educated not only myself, but I'm quite sure that when this goes out, it will be able to educate others. As we close, I want to just kind of give a uh, brief description on something. Many of you may know about the story about the prodigal son. Maybe some of you may not, but I'm going to kind of give a good little analogy of it. There was a story in the Bible about the prodigal son. He left home and he went out and partied and did everything that he could do underneath the sun. And then one day he found himself. When I say he found himself, he realized that, this is not where I need to be. And when he went back home, his dad accepted him and
Mm-hmm.
he told his younger son, "Hey, go find a road, get a ring, and we're going to celebrate him coming back home." Why am I bringing this up? Because just like the prodigal son came back home, there's a lot of prodigal sons that were not able to come back home. So during this COVID-19 pandemic that we're going through, some will make it and some will not make it, unfortunately. However, you have an opportunity to make it. And don't feel that because I'm 24, I'm 25 years old, and I'm full of life, and that nothing can happen to me. Um, it can happen to you. So don't be the prodigal son that was not able to make it back home. You know, be the other son that stayed home. And we need to learn how to stay home, stay
Yeah.
safe, wear the mask and do all the things that, they are telling us to do. I know that there are hundreds of videos of people suggesting what you need to do and this and that. And I didn't want to get someone here on this show tonight to uh, tell me, well, this is what I think. I need to have someone that's been through the fires. And you've been through the fires. And one of the things when I first contacted Angela, I she had to correct me because I said, "Hey, I want to speak with you because you survived COVID-19." And tell them what you had to correct me and tell me.
When I said I am surviving,
Yeah, that you were
because
surviving.
it's not over. It's
Right,
not
it's not
over.
over. So what we will do, we will be praying, Angela, that you, as well as your family, stay safe. And we certainly thank God that God has brought you this far. And, you know, I will be staying in touch because you still have a tremendous praise report other than the one that you were able to
Yes.
let us know
Yes.
tonight. And so, just keep being a blessing in your community and into in your home with your family. And I'm quite sure that this message is not going to fall down on deaf ears tonight. So listen, Pick a Side Nation, I certainly want to thank you for being a part of this very special show tonight about COVID-19. I hope that we were able to shed some light and hope that you were educated by Miss Norward with the wonderful things that she had to say. And by all means, please stay home. My show next week will be on financial literacy in the Black community, where we'll have Miss Carol Hart and Candace Hart talking about how we Black folks love to spend money, but we certainly don't like to save it and put it away for a rainy day. So thank you so very much for being on the show.
I want to thank you
Hopefully,
for having me,
you're
giving me
certainly
this
welcome.
opportunity to share my message.
Absolutely,
I appreciate it.
and a shout out to your cousin,
Yes, to
Bonita,
Benita.
who reached out to me to hook us up together with this. And if there's anybody else out there that has gone through COVID-19 and want to share your experience, I'll be more than happy to reach out to you, and we'll have you on as well, because I don't think that we can never not get educated on this. All right. So Angela, take care of yourself. God bless. And as I always end my shows with this, um, you know, always, always put God and keep God first place in your life, and He'll take you
Yes,
places that you never dreamed of. Thank you
yes.
so much, Angela. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
God
Good
bless.
night. God
All right,
bless you
take care.
too.
All right.